Hey guys, what's going on? It is Tim Burzens here, and I gotta say, it's been a little while. I think the last video I posted on this channel was about 2 years ago or so. And a lot of you have been asking on previous videos, leaving comments and saying, wondering where I went, wondering if I was okay, and that kind of stuff. And about 2 years ago, had some big life changes that happened that pulled me away from doing videos around the bioenergetic view of health and metabolism. Exploring the Ray Peat style of looking at health and nutrition, and even just life in general. But recently I got into a conversation with one of my friends who I lived with in Florida at the time, Trent McCloskey, and he's also someone who is very much into the bioenergetic view, is very educated on it. And we decided we wanted to start having some of our old conversations, exploring some of these topics, and record them and put them back up on YouTube or on a podcast. So we did just that, and we have our first episode, which is on morning routines for boosting your metabolism, for starting off your day right, for keeping your respiratory metabolism high, for reducing stress, and for all that other stuff that we're going to dive into in this video. So what follows is that discussion. I talk about this at the end, but please leave comments asking questions if you have any, and giving us some feedback. We're going to try to film some more videos on this. And if you have anything you want us to talk about, definitely hit us up and let us know. Please like and share this video if you enjoy the discussion. We want to get this information out to as many people as possible. Thanks, guys, and your support is always appreciated. I'm glad to be back, and I can't wait to continue this discussion with you. So with that, we will start the episode. All right, so me and Trent here are going to be talking about a couple different health things, and exploring, like the bioenergetic view of metabolism and of health. So the idea being that when a system is properly creating energy, it's going to be in the healthiest state possible. This is kind of the Ray Peat view, the Danny Roddy view, if any of you are familiar with that line of thinking. And I think the piece that really attracted us to this was that it ties in all the missing pieces that traditional science kind of misses. There are these little loopholes that kind of like get lost in the fray. And then it's just kind of assumed that, okay, well, this is the working hypothesis. We're just going to continue down this road without really going back and realizing like, okay, well, what about this piece that didn't really fit into it? And there's a lot of examples of that. And so this view kind of takes like a higher level approach to it in general, I think.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something right there. It's more so it's like, I think science and a lot of the like clinical trials and studies, they look at someone in a disease state. And especially in like Western medicine and everything, it's like looking at somebody who has diabetes or looking at somebody who has X disease and only trying to either get a drug that just like fixes it and then doesn't actually look at the other side. Like no one's actually looking at what does a healthy person actually look like and function like and feel like, and then kind of like reverse engineering that instead of just looking like, oh, this drug will fix that disease and then send you off on your way. It's like, no. It's like if your cells and your health can't produce the health normally, then it's like we have to actually do something else, right? And that's like that different view that you were just talking about.
It's basically that idea of like a symptom and a Band-Aid. Like if you have this symptom, let's cover it up and make the symptom better. Well, like the real question is, why is a symptom there to begin with? Because a healthy organism wouldn't have that symptom.
Yeah.
You can't just take a healthy an unhealthy organism, slap the Band-Aid on it and say, look, it's the same as a healthy organism.
Right.
Like the problem's going to manifest in a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the problems can get worse and worse over time. And then that's whenever people get that wake up call. It's like, oh, I have diabetes, or like, oh my God, like I got to get rushed to the hospital because you don't know that your blood sugar has dropped or something like that. And it's more so it's like that stress, whether it's like nutritional stress, which we'll probably touch on a little bit in today's talk, behavioral stress, environmental stress, all these things build and compound over time. And then before you know it, that's whenever the problems happen. It's not like someone just wakes up out of nowhere with cancer, right? That has to be a building process, or like someone that's just feeling great all of a sudden has cancer, right? No, it's like those progressions are going to be built up of like starting with fatigue, trouble sleeping, and low energy all the time. And then you finally get to that worse and worse disease state. So it's, and then it's like, yeah, the focus, what we're just talking about, it's like everyone looks at that disease state, put a Band-Aid on it, you're good now. It's like, no. It's like, why can't your cells, produce the same health that they were before? So that's kind of like the birth of this whole conversation if we turn this into
Exactly.
a podcast or so on and so forth.
And like a big piece that you just said there was the stress component. And like you said, there's like so many different kinds of stress in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is like so a healthy organism can recover from stress super quickly. It's that stress adaptation model where it's,
Mm-hmm.
the alarm stage and then the reaction stage and then the exhaustion stage.
Mm-hmm.
And like normally if, say uh, an emotionally healthy person, a behaviorally, psychologically, physically healthy person, something happens in their day that causes like a huge stress reaction, their
Mm-hmm.
body should quickly bounce back from that. But then if they hold on to it and kind of like suppress it, or if they continue to repeat these patterns that are causing that stress, it grows and grows and grows until the organism is so suppressed that one little thing will trigger you. It's kind of like a chain. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the weak link that as you pull this chain apart with more and more pressure, one of those links is going to break. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, the whole autoimmune thing with like, whether it's celiacs or like even hypothyroidism
Mm-hmm.
or, eczema or all those other, whichever one you want to look at, it's like, it's not really that it's like this one specific thing causing this thing or, a genetic malfunction. It's that your body had this one weak link. And as you pulled the stress of that chain, that one link broke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, you have that one disease. So it's like by reverse engineering it, the way you had said, like, don't try to just put a Band-Aid on that link, stop pulling the chain,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It mentioned like dairy could be like another issue as well for most people. But because of that, like say if you have like a low metabolic rate, you won't be able to digest dairy. But I actually want to talk about that in today's thing. So I want to save that for like whenever we get to it. I think another awesome thing that kind of sparked this conversation because for those listeners, like you and I have not seen each other since, when was it in person? It was
It was January's last time we hung out, but like we lived together in
yeah.
Florida for 2 years
Right. Okay.
with
Yeah.
Austin. Yeah.
January. Cause yeah, God, these months are just like flying by, but yeah. So, just like a random thing, I was like, oh, I want to catch up with Tim, what he's up to, talk about some health things. And this kind of spurred this conversation today. So I'm super pumped to dive in on that stuff. Cause yeah, even like living together down in Florida, working together, we would have these conversations just talking about health stuff like for our own personal. Cause I think what this really comes down to, it's like diving into all the science. It's like, I feel like our main goal is just to help you understand this, how to feel good, like how to improve the quality of life. Because I think something where in like the day-to-day just life of everybody, most people are at like a baseline that is like way below normally how you should be feeling, right? But it's covered up with more caffeine, maybe whatever it may be, pain relieving drugs, whatever, to get you through the day or just get enough, energy with tons of like monsters or something like that, right? And it's covered up, and it's like you get so used to that quality of living that like you don't tend to realize that you're operating way under your normal baseline. So it's like really the main goal is like all the things we discuss and talk about, like what are the main action items to help you feel good. And that's why the first kind of topic we want to dive into today was like how to like master your mornings, like how to get the most out of the morning routine. And based on what you just said, that constant stress response, whether it's like covered up or masked, will cause that break in the chain. Why do you think it's important to like lower the morning stress response, essentially, to kind of kick today's topic off?
Yeah. And I mean, I think the morning is the most important thing of all because like that's how there's a certain momentum that starts to take place within your body as you like move through your conscious day. When you come out of sleep, your body's it should be in the most parasympathetic, restful, healing state.
Yeah.
And the actions that you're going to perform first thing in the morning are going to set the tone for the rest of your day. So if you start off, grabbing a shitty donut with like canola oil and
yeah, exactly.
And like that's your breakfast or something, and like you're not even like mentally prepared for the day, you like stumble into work, and then like every little thing that happens to you causes like a huge stress response. Like that's gonna set up that like even if you kind of recover by the afternoon, the rest of your day is much worse than it would be if you started in a really good place, centered yourself so that any stresses that came to you would be able to handle, had a good meal so your body's like amped up, has like the heat going, like the cycles of the respiratory metabolism going, so that you can hit the day. And if something happens, if your boss yells at you, if you roll in late or something like that, you're fine. You know what I mean? Like you'll still go through your day and be able to maintain that higher state of health and respiration versus like trying to like starting underwater and trying to like dig your way out of it. You know what I mean? Like you're already starting above water. So you're like it
Exactly.
helps so much to have that good morning routine.
Yeah. The first thing that came to my mind was like just picturing somebody in like an office setting, like trying to run down the hallway with like a bunch of books and like binders and like meeting notes, and they get hit by like a door and it flies
Yeah.
everywhere. It's like the difference of that and like being like more like on point. It's like whatever, like a boss yelling at you, coworkers needing stuff from you. It's like, okay, check, check, check. And like you were just like on your day. And even like bigger than that too, it's like not just like in your workday, your career, but just like your well-being, your energy throughout the day, the afternoon and the evening to just like live your life and have a great workout and like things like that like just make the quality of living so much better. And that's absolutely right what you said. It's like the quality of your morning and how you set the stage for the day is like literally like the most important, because it's like that difference right there. It's either like a super stressful like reactive morning or like a super productive like proactive morning where you're like taking on the day feeling at your very best.
Yeah, you said it best right there. That was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Proactive versus reactive. I agree completely. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's you know, if we really want to talk about like what stress is, ultimately, and I know this is a little of a diversion from like the purely talking about nutrition concept, but it's inextricably related. Like you have to talk about it. Is like emotional stress, behavioral stress, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where like I think most of us get so bogged down. Things happen in life that like are constantly kind of pushing you down, and so then the nutritional stress or the sedentary stress, those kind of things, or lifestyle stress, those things all like have such a bigger impact on you because your body's not functioning optimally because you have that like emotional and psychological stress that you haven't really recovered from and like overcame. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. It's
Yeah.
like another way to look at it is like, I think us as humans, we're so good at draining our batteries, but we don't know how to recharge them. Like
Yeah.
thinking about it like that way too. I think even on like a bigger scale too, it's like, and this is like taking like the mainstream fitness approach and diving a little bit further, because fat loss, in my opinion, is not just about calories. There's
Hmm.
like fat gain is like a really like a balance of hormones, right? Because like, does your body really know what a calorie is? No, of course not. It's like, yes, you can get hooked up with like an Apple Watch or like actually better equipment to measure like how many calories you're burning. But it's like at the same time, though, your body doesn't know what a calorie is, right? It's like the
Yeah.
balance of hormones. And if you're operating in that stress state for so long, you're literally triggering your body for fat storage and fat retention.
Yeah.
And I think that's a
Yeah.
big
So
misconception. Yeah, I know. I saw like some stuff.
yeah. Well, so like the big part there that you just said is like, so let's take it to the extreme just as an example, as a like a
Mhm.
thought experiment, is if you were to be burning the same number of calories purely with the respiratory metabolism,
Mhm.
using oxygen, creating CO2, versus mostly or the majority of it coming from the glycolytic metabolism, which is
Mhm.
the byproduct is like lactic acid,
Right.
the difference in the quality and the well-being of your body, and most definitely the difference in your hormonal levels, which therefore means the difference in your muscle tone and your fat content, your fat storage, would absolutely be different. There's no way that you could say that someone operating with the majority of their metabolism coming from the respiratory metabolism versus the majority of the metabolism coming from the glycolytic metabolism would have the
Mhm.
same effects. So
Right.
there, right off the bat, should show you that like you can't just say that it's purely calories. There's definitely something else going on. Now,
Mhm.
like from the physics perspective, yes, like a closed system like your body has to have energy balance, like the amount of energy you're absorbing versus the amount of energy that you're excreting, whether
Yes.
it's like the liver excreting it through the bowels or whether it's like burning it through converting it into heat and to mechanical energy. Like
Mhm.
that part of it, absolutely, that has to make sense. But that's not really how most of the calorie in, calorie out people are talking about it, you know?
Right. Yes, exactly. And like to kind of like summarize that a little bit, it's almost like for um, you can almost think like whenever you're working out, you feel the burn. Like if you're doing whatever exercise and you start to produce lactic acid, it's like that's needed. I guess I want to summarize like the good stress and the bad stress. It's like you need some good stress because that's what's going to trigger, good inflammation, actually trigger muscle growth, for example, if we're talking on that fitness perspective. And it's like, for example, we have those like kind of, um, let's say governors, like a governor on like a motor on a car. Like if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have that on like some of like the most stock cars, funny story how I figured that out. I used to
Your
take my
parents?
car and drive.
Yes.
I got that thing up.
Sorry.
I got that up to 112, and all of a sudden the car started beeping, and it wouldn't allow me to go further than 112. But I bet my mom's gonna listen to this and she's gonna like die. But on the dashboard, it will say like 160 or whatever it might be, like the max. And I was trying to get it close to there, right? But it beeped and cut off at 112. So I was like, okay, so it's like a governor. It's like if your body didn't have this, and lactic acid is a byproduct of that different method of metabolism. If your body didn't have this, you would run through all your, vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, resources, and just drop dead. So like the body has these in place, but it's that balancing act of like in a healthy state, you can use that different type of metabolism, put that good stress on your body, and you can recover from that. But most people get stuck operating in that stress response way too long. And that's whenever your health starts to decline, your metabolic rates start to decline. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it, because like, then like what's the goal would basically be that you want to raise the governor, in your body. Because like if your set point based on like the amount of like nutrients and the amount of like typical stress that you're going through every single day, like the stores of maybe polyunsaturated fats, which are break down into free radicals really easily, like that quantity of store, your body's kind of taking stock of like what all it's experiencing and what is inside of it every single day. And so like that governor is basically saying like, we need to have the good metabolism low and produce a lot of energy from the bad metabolism. And I use bad in a very ubiquitous way. I don't mean it like it's bad. It's just like, it's not what we want for our purposes, of like really good health. But like, so that governor is kind of like saying, it's not a bad thing that your metabolism is low in the sense of like your body's survival. It's doing what it needs to do by like preserving your resources so that it's not overdoing it by like suppressing that metabolism. So like, really, I mean, it's a cool way that you put that with like the governor, because I think that's a really good way to think about it, is like try to raise that by like providing the nutrients and reducing the stress so that your body feels that it can actually raise that respiratory metabolism and stop using the lactic acid metabolism so much.
Yes, 100%. That kind of like, since we kind of touched on like the fitness part of it, it's like, that's why I believe that all like weightlifting and cardio and type of exercise should be fun and joyful, almost in like a playing kind of sense. It's like, yes, there is always like the point of challenging yourself, getting stronger, doing more and doing better. But it's like whenever exercise, especially like in the cardio sense that we're tying in like the mainstream fitness, if that becomes unenjoyable and unbearable, that means your body really can't handle that stress. And I think it's like a balancing act, especially like you could probably speak to this too. Whenever we saw the best results, not only our health, but also our fitness, we were working in that spectrum, raising that governor up as much as we could so our body could actually recover from that stress, and in turn got better and better results, as opposed to, it's like I always like to say, instead of like beating yourself down to try to get six-pack abs, it's like, how do you build yourself up into how you want to look and feel, giving yourself the right nutrients, giving yourself the right foods that are easily digestible, supporting your health and everything like that to get to that next level. And I feel like that the mainstream fitness is always focused on, cutting calories as much as possible, which is obviously always going to end up in like deficiencies in nutrients and electrolytes and all that stuff, which we could start tying this into the morning a little bit, but you know what I mean? It's a great conversation, but it's like, as opposed to giving yourself the most nutrient dense foods, the one that actually has your body thriving to get to that next level, to raise that health up a little bit further.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so yeah, like, so you mentioned we've been kind of, it's a good discussion, but we've kind of been just like spilling all this stuff out. So let's like get to the actual topic here. So like, I mean, so what, I know you kind of were telling me a little bit about your morning routine, and you were talking about like the calorie threshold thing, which I tried today, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Heck yeah.
I felt really good, and like coffee was hitting me a lot better than it does if I don't. But why don't you start and like kind of walk through your morning routine and kind of give the reasons like why you do each thing that you do.
First, you just mentioned this a little bit before. As soon as you wake up, your body should be in that most parasympathetic state, right? And it's almost that state where you wake up, and I'll be honest, like every day is not perfect, but whenever I do have these days, just because that all determines from like the night before, and I guess we'll loop around the whole day, right? So that's like a different topic, but it's like,
but it's also like, it's good to have the ideal, it's like, you're not going to hit the ideal every day, but it's
if you don't know what you're aiming for. Yeah. Also true.
Exactly.
But it's like whenever you wake up, it's like your hands and feet are warm. You just feel so relaxed, almost to the point where you don't even want to get out of bed because you just feel so relaxed. But then you almost have like this burst of energy and you feel good that makes you want to jump out of bed and go start your day. It's like, that is like the absolute ideal. And it's like the closer I am to that.
Is that excitement factor. It's like the difference between feeling like the day is an obligation versus like the day is something you're excited to get into.
Yes, exactly. And of course that could be like a number of different factors on whether God, that just like open up a big can of worms. Like if you actually enjoy like the stuff you're doing in the day, but that's a whole different conversation. But I also would argue
that's the connection. I'll say real quick though,
yeah,
that's the connection between mind and body, where it's the emotions that affect the body, but then like the state of the body is affecting your emotions. It's in a cycle. So like when you take the emotions and decide that you're not going to respond in the same way that you've always responded, you're interjecting within that cycle. And then similar, when you treat your body better and start to heal it, you're interjecting on the other point of the cycle. So it's like, rather than like cycling here, you can like bring it up and cycle up here.
Right. Yes.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
So anyway,
I like how you put it like that. Yeah. And so it's like on the other end of the spectrum, it's like instead of like, I could just like view the other end, and because sometimes I had this, it's like you wake up and you kind of get that immediate cortisol response, especially like if you check your phone, which is something I don't do first thing in the morning. I turn off the alarm, but ideally I'm waking up like a few minutes before the alarm. But then it's like you get that cortisol response, you get like that stress state, and then like you're jumping out of bed in kind of like fear and anxiety, and just like that's the opposite end of like jumping out of bed with that excitement, feeling awesome and everything. So yeah, I think first things in my morning routine is like as soon as I wake up, I focus on like three main things. That's water, light, and movement. So movement being whether that's just like some light stretching, usually like yoga. It's not like I want to like start like going crazy and doing like burpees or anything like that. I think that's like a little bit more on like the intense side, but really I just like the light yoga just to kind of stretch out like any kinks if I like, from sleeping, kind of get the body moving. Maybe like some, I love like stomach vacuums to kind of like get the organs ready for the day. Just kind of like to bring yourself, something I also do in place of like the movement section is like dry brushing. Just because I love that. It's like a way just I check in with my body and kind of like, bend down to my feet and brush all the way upwards, kind of just getting your body ready for the day as opposed to
it's like a stretch, but you're making it like even more effective by adding another component to it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like not diving into the part like, oh, like will dry brushing like help reduce stubborn body fat? It's like not necessarily. It's not going to help you lose cellulite or anything like that. It does have some benefits of like flushing the lymphatic systems and lymph nodes and everything like that. So there's some benefit there. But other than that, I just love it because of like kind of stretching, checking in with my body, that kind of thing. That's kind of besides the point. But the two main things here are water and movement. Water is super important. I love like the elixir of life, I call it. It's usually just 12 ounces of spring water or filtered water and like maybe like 2 to 3 pinches of sea salt, pink Himalayan sea salt, and then like a fourth squeezed lemon. Because most people make the mistake, like you mentioned earlier on this, like they just grab a donut or usually just head for coffee first thing. But if you look back and think about it, you just went hopefully 7, 8, maybe 9 hours, right? Or maybe 6 or 7, whatever it is, the night that you were sleeping, you just went with absolutely no water, no food, no nothing. So it's like, it only makes sense to actually hydrate your body first thing as opposed to jumping right into coffee.
Yeah. There was something you had just said about, well, I lost it, but we'll come back to it. I'm sure it'll come back to me.
Mm-hmm. With, going right into water first, because you were just sleeping the entire night.
Yeah. Sorry, that was it. The elixir. What do you call it? Elixir of life?
Elixir of life. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a Trent name right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember trying that when we all visited Tom in Florida, and he made me one, and I liked it a lot. It felt pretty good in the morning. But the one thing that I would say as a warning to anyone who wants to try that is don't go too heavy on the salt. Because if you do, you'll be running to the bathroom pretty quickly because it's salt, especially if you do it on an empty stomach. Your body has a part of the way it absorbs sodium and potassium is through a glucose channel. So it actually needs glucose in order to operate the absorption of that. 100%. So if you're doing it on an empty stomach, there's no glucose absorbing with it. And so it's just like a very hypertonic solution, basically, that is passing through your system. I mean, if you're going for a flush, go for it. You're going to be,
yeah,
I think it's implied what you're going to be doing, but
exactly.
Yeah. So just be warned. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I kind of correct myself and said 2 to 3 pinches. Cause I go up to like sometimes 2 grams to 3 grams in the morning. And that doesn't affect me because I've been doing it for so long.
It's like a build-up thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like 2 to 3 pinches, you'll be fine. Just to help that water kind of increase the absorption. But like you said, yeah, your body needs glucose to actually bring that into your cells as well. But that's like the first thing. Instead of just hopping into like a diet soda or a coffee, because you actually start to need that hydration process before you hop into something like that. which is kind of another conversation when we take it down that road. I just wanted to get to the light part because at the same time, it's like a light is the best thing you can do first thing in the morning. Like even if you wake up feeling like a little tired, a little groggy, the best thing you can do is hop into the sunlight because that's going to immediately start to trigger you to wake up in the best natural ways possible before you even get to the caffeine. And something, a little tip I have, I think you saw this whenever we were hanging out, the human charger. Sometimes I like that, especially for folks that like maybe it's winter time and you don't have that direct sunlight early in the morning. Say if you're waking up like a little bit before the sun rises, it's like it looks like a little iPod or MP3 player, but the earphones are just light that emits into your ears. And I found a little benefit with that, but nothing beats direct sunlight. So if you can wake up and before you head off to work or whatever you may be doing in your day, if you can get out to unexposed sunlight, that is literally the best way to not only wake you up, but I found it in a sense to kind of heat up your body. Because of course, like speaking to the whole like overview of this conversation, like the ideal body temp is going to be around, where would you say, 98.6 degrees up to like maybe 100 in that fluctuation, like 100 being very, very high. And then beyond that is going to be fever state. But it's like
usually I'd say like not above mid 99s.
99,
you know? Yeah. But I mean, even then when you're waking up, most people are going to be 97. You know, not 96.5. Like if you're real healthy, you'll be 98 or 98.6. I doubt most people are waking up at like 99. That's a pretty high metabolism.
Yeah, exactly. So with that said, I kind of use the sunlight in that sense to kind of heat your body up. I almost like to be in the sun until I almost feel like a light sweat coming on. I can almost feel see my hand, like the veins in my hands coming out a little bit more as I'm drinking the water. And then I know I'm kind of woken up, I'm primed to then move into like food for that day, essentially.
Yeah. And a big part of that too, like you just said, is that the body heat, the reason that it's so important is because there are so many enzymes that don't work properly if they're not at a certain temperature. And so when your body's cold, those enzymes get deactivated and your body is working off of a different paradigm than it is when it's warm. That's the whole reason why like you warm up for a workout. It's not just to like electrically prime your muscles or to like mobilize energy. Part of it is literally to get it warm, like temperature warm, because a warmer muscle will be more elastic. So it's kind of similar in that sense. Like your body actually has to physically warm up.
I love that you said that too, because that's like, again, it's like warming up is so important, not just to like, you know, I don't know, get ready for a heavier weight, for example, but literally so your muscles are functioning at their best.
Yeah.
And most people skip that up in the workout. Yeah. And that's why they either not have the best workout or worse off, they injure themselves.
I mean, we know someone who literally would do like one set or maybe like two very easy sets and then hop into like a max weight, like no general prep, no warm up or anything like that. And it's like, you're going to hurt yourself one of these days.
Yeah,
like
that's rough. Catch up with you, man. I think I know who you're talking about. We'll just save the name for different time.
Of course.
I almost think of two people, but
true. Yeah. Another point though that's really important with the sunlight, I was kind of thinking about this before too, is obviously if you can get into the sun, that's really important. Like hands down, you got to get warmed up in that way. But even if you can't, I think there's a lot of benefit to waking up early because of the amount of sunlight that you get. And it's not even like that you physically get to your skin, but it's even just that your eyes perceive. If you sleep with dark curtains, which most people do, you know, blackout curtains or something like that,
right? And
you sleep until like 11 or 12, then the amount of sunlight that you actually experience in the waking state would put your body into a psychological state that thinks it's winter. And winter is like the time when all hypothyroid symptoms come up, when like seasonal affective disorder, where everyone gets depressed and things like that. And a big part of that, I mean, part of it's temperature, but another big part of it is the actual lack of sunlight. And so, you know, there's even a bunch of studies with night shift workers who work all night and then sleep all day. And they get a very deranged metabolism. It's just like, it's not their cortisol, their circadian rhythms all off. Like their adrenaline spiking at the wrong times and testosterone's, you know, all out of whack. It's like your body is supposed to be awake during the sunlight hours. And so like, if you're on a schedule where you're continually sleeping super late, then you're going to get caught into this rhythm where you feel like you need more sleep because you're not getting enough sunlight, but then you sleep more because you need more sleep, but that makes you not get enough sunlight so that you keep needing to sleep more. So you're so it's like, you have to like cut that cycle and like wake up early, get that sunlight early in the day, and like get your rhythm back on track. And
I love that you said that. Yeah, this is big. This is really big because I actually never even thought of it that way. I was always just looking at the perspective of most people. I forget what the exact like stat is, but so many people are deficient in vitamin D, and that's huge because vitamin D is like one of the biggest things that support a healthy, fast, robust metabolism, and even like a healthy gut. It's pretty much like everything, right? And I personally believe it's like if you can't get a lot of sunlight, supplementing with vitamin D can be helpful, but it's like it's never going to be the same as your body making it itself from sunlight.
Yeah, and I mean, well, that's the thing is like the calciferol, which is the D3. I'm pretty sure that most supplements have. That's one of 25 different types of vitamin D that are produced by your skin from direct sunlight. So yes, your body can convert that one form into the other forms as it's needed, but I don't like the approach that is like, well, your body can do it, so you're fine. It's like, well, what's optimal for your body? Well, you're to produce all 25 as they're in balance, as they're needed, as they're supposed to be produced, not giving it this one major form and then hoping that it just happens to do all the rest. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I love that you say that because I wanted to save this for the podcast whenever we talked about it here live. I've been kind of taking light to kind of the next level, and thankfully here, new apartment in Austin, Texas. Sorry, that was the cat. He knows how to open doors. I've been taking that to the next level, and I've actually been able to tan and get sunlight completely naked first thing in the morning, and actually, I'm serious, and actually expose like the whole genitals to the sun, which I feel like is like taking it to the very, very, very extreme.
Well, there's
absolute top. Yeah.
There's a lot of studies with red light specifically, but I think that's really just a moniker for actual sunlight. But the studies on red light showing that certain wavelengths will increase the function of an organ. And one of them is that like, if you put your balls in red light, that your testosterone will go up. And so it's like, it kind of makes sense because if you were an animal in nature, you wouldn't be like covering yourself up in that way. You know, direct sunlight is pretty hard for most people to get there. If you're in a situation like you have, it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But an
Red light
alternative
also,
would, an alternative would be red light. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And I'm probably going to I wanted to do like a post or something about this. Like I tanned naked for 30 days straight. And here's what happened. That's clickbait.
That's good.
That's clickbaity as heck. But it's like, it's true though. And like, I did not get, sadly, I would love to do something like this in the future, like to actually measure something, but like I didn't get my testosterone levels tested, but I can judge from like the better quality of my sleep, which goes directly hand in hand with what you were saying on how getting more sunlight throughout the entire day is going to actually put you in that better, higher metabolic rate and not in like that hibernation state if you're in that cycle of not getting any sunlight, especially because most people wake up, if they have blackout curtains, they're not getting any really real light exposure except for like they leave their house and hop straight into their car and then go straight to the office. They're in the office all day and then they leave the office, hopefully maybe either get to the gym or something like that. But then by that time, it's going to be nighttime. You know what I mean? You're not really getting the sunlight that you need. But I can measure like my overall well-being has increased. I feel like I am in a healthier state. I feel like I have a bit more drive, more energy. So that's probably a direct correlation with my testosterone going up a little bit.
I think motivation, like if you're feeling like super, like directive, you know what I mean? Like if you're feeling in charge directive, what you might consider like an alpha male quality, like you feel like leadership, you feel like higher libido, you feel like you're like grabbing life by the horns and riding kind of thing. That's like, those are all signs of higher testosterone.
Yes. 100%.
And it's again, though, I'll also say that that's that double feedback thing where it's like the body produces testosterone, which makes you feel this way, but feeling this way makes you produce more testosterone, and then having more testosterone makes you feel this way. So it's this cycle. So like not only doing the physical things to increase it, but also adopting that mental status where it's like, even when something happens that maybe like negates it, where you feel smaller, you feel weak, and then you say, I'm going to let this go and maintain my like higher state of feeling, you know, engaged in life and feeling like excited, then that's going to have that feedback. You're not going to get that hit, that, you know, reverse hit to your testosterone to come back down.
Right.
It's going to maintain it high. And so like, and really you can do all of this mentally. I mean, a lot of it needs to, the physical part will fall into place and you'll end up going up. But like there is the strong mental component that like when you change the way that you perceive the world, your hormones will necessarily change.
Yeah.
The mind is all throughout the body, you know?
Yes. And I love that you tie that in too, which I think for somebody listening, I think starting to do some of the things we talk about here will help you kind of get your mindset into that position as well. I think you can go at it like from both ways. Some people, it's easier just to like think yourself there. And at the other side of it, if you actually start putting the actions there and start experiencing that more positive feedback, it's easier to now have these new beliefs. It almost gets yourself over to that positive feedback loop, as opposed to what you just described, like the negative side of that, as opposed to the stressed out guy running through the office, spilling all of his meeting papers and kind of thing. It's like you're operating in that bad cycle, in that super stressed out state with high cortisol. I got a call from Florida, Winter Park, Florida. Shout out to Tom. It wasn't Tom. It was just a random. And it was probably like the gym that we got like a guest pass at or something like that. Like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That probably, yeah, they usually call up. But anyway, that negative, that stress state, as like cortisol is higher, adrenaline's higher, and you're in that stress state and being like more reactive to your day, I think that totally relates in that either positive feedback or the negative feedback loop.
It's like thinking of the states of consciousness as like caricatures. I like that caricature of like the stressed out guy running through the hall. It's like everything goes everywhere. That's like a good like mental anchor that you can kind of be like, am I being that guy? Because if I'm going to be that guy right now, like how can I maybe move to be a little less that guy, a little bit more of like the I'm in charge of shit right now kind of guy.
Exactly. So I think moving into that step, diving into the calorie threshold and that kind of thing, I think that's like the perfect spot to like in the morning routine, because it's basically like light with the water, the light movement and everything, and then moving into probably about like an hour after waking. Now is the time to actually I'm kind of enjoying a cup of coffee. I want to move into coffee, move into my first meal. And how do you think we should go about this? Like talking about like what I've been doing, then compare it to the other side of the spectrum.
Well, so two things that I wanted to circle back to. One was
stress state in the morning.
Yeah, I want to hit these, and we'll come back to it. Is we mentioned the whole thing with the circadian rhythm, and you mentioned cortisol when you're awakening. So one big thing is that in a healthy metabolism, it is good to have cortisol spike right when you wake up, because
this
it's
is what I
supposed
want
to
to
wake
touch
your
on.
body up.
Yeah.
But if and the thing is though, we can't have a reductionist mindset where we're thinking that cortisol equals bad, so you don't want cortisol. It's all contextually dependent. So what else is happening in your body? If all your healthy hormones, all the steroid hormones are low, and then you have high cortisol, that's going to be an unhealthy state. That's not something you want. But if you have all these protective hormones and then cortisol spikes at this one time, cortisol will be doing what it's supposed to be doing for you. It's not a bad hormone. It's just that it's out of balance with the protective hormones when you're in that low metabolism state. So, but here's the thing is that people who are in that healthy high metabolism state, they will, in the healthy high metabolism state, they will produce that cortisol. They'll wake up and they'll feel ready to go in the morning. People who are not in a good healthy state, their circadian rhythm gets moved. And I would say that it's probably similar, if not the same, as night shift workers or seasonal affective disorder people, in the sense that they wake up and they don't have that cortisol spike. And so they remain in that like tired, groggy state all morning until they finally kind of get there in the afternoon, but then they kind of crash. But then the evening comes around and now cortisol is like ramped up high and they can't fall asleep. And then, they finally do fall asleep, but then cortisol spikes again at 3 a.m. and they wake up and they're just like, I can't fall back to sleep now 3 a.m. because my cortisol and adrenaline are so high. And so it's like, that's the example of that deranged metabolism. It's not where it's supposed to be. And so you're getting all these like weird effects. Now, that cortisol awakening response that's supposed to happen, cortisol will naturally reduce your sensitivity to insulin. And so in healthy people, they'll often, especially people who have a strong cortisol awakening response, if they eat a ton of carbs right when they wake up, it'll end up making them sleepy because it pumps up a ton of extra insulin because they're not as sensitive at that time. And then the insulin crashes and then they get tired. I'm still kind of formulating what I think would be best based on like a person who is in the low metabolism state, because in the low metabolism state, your insulin sensitivity is pretty much shot anyway.
Yeah, you're onto something really big here, because it's almost the question is like, what would you do if you are getting this kind of response, if you're having that many carbs in the morning, you know,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, and so the thing is, looking at like insulin sensitivity, you're going to have poor insulin sensitivity in the low metabolism state. You're going to have good insulin sensitivity in the high metabolism state, but you're also getting more cortisol in the morning in the high in the high metabolism state. Low metabolism state, your cortisol is going to be spiking in the evening. So it's almost like, I'm not sure if this is really the prescriptive way to go about it or not. I'm still kind of playing with it. But if you're in the low metabolism state, it might be good to put more carbs early in the day and then have fewer carbs closer to the evening. And then for a healthy person, that would be flipped, where it's better to have more carbs at night. And there's studies that show carbs at night actually helping with fat loss, but I think those are in healthy people.
Yeah, exactly. And see, that's that disconnect too, because you can't get lost in that, like, oh, you know, carbs are bad at night. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because in a healthy state, they're actually good, and they actually promote relaxation and, you know, keeping you sound asleep for the whole night, essentially. Yeah. Right.
And we've had this will actually tie in really great with the point that we're gonna come back to, is that you know, we've both had, you know, our own experiences with intermittent fasting. You know, waking up and basically not eating breakfast or lunch, and then having like an early dinner, then like a main big dinner, and then maybe like a dessert before bed. And I like that way of eating. It's very natural, and it does make it easy to hit like a calorie deficit if you're dieting and stuff like that. There are, to me, it makes sense in certain ways for nutrient partitioning, as far as like, if you're going to work out and then have all this food, then it's more likely
work out, right,
that food's going to go. But the problem with that is, if you're in a low metabolism state, then you're fasting when cortisol is low. And so you're kind of not eating when your body is most able to assimilate and digest nutrients. And then you're eating when your body's least able to assimilate and digest the nutrients. And so you're kind of like in this like weird paradoxical state, which basically makes the argument for having breakfast and for having lunch. And so you were just talked about the what you're calling like the calorie threshold.
Something playing around with. And that's the thing too, because something I've always noticed whenever I was intermittent fasting, and even on some days too, that if I had coffee, you know, right first thing in the morning, it would almost increase that stress response. And maybe I'm more sensitive in this way, but I feel like cortisol and adrenaline would spike super high, and I would get like that anxious, jittery feeling, adrenal sweats. And I just like, it kind of is going more on that reactive side of like, oh my God, all these things are coming at me today, I can't handle it. As opposed to like, how do I create where that smooth, calm, awesome energy where you feel more proactive, and like these tasks are showing up, like you're checking things off your to-do list, and whatever comes at you, like, okay, I got this, check, it's all good. So that's why something where I've been like having at least like 300 to 400 calories first thing in the morning, and then having my coffee afterwards gives me that smooth, calm energy, as opposed to even if I just had like a piece of fruit or something like that, it still wouldn't be enough. And I would still feel like I get pushed more into that stressed out, jittery state from that extra caffeine, essentially. So like having that 300, 400 calories, and then with my coffee allows, because at the same time too, like your body needs, you know, the carbs to actually start metabolizing the caffeine, right? If you don't have that, you're going to release more stress hormones to break down your tissues to get what it needs to start metabolizing that caffeine, essentially.
Yeah, I think I would word what you just said slightly differently and say that caffeine will activate a higher energy expenditure.
Yeah, raise metabolic rate.
Raise metabolic rate. The question is, are you supplying your body with the fuel so that it is all respiratory metabolism, or are you depriving your body of the fuel, therefore causing yourself to tap into the glycolytic metabolism, the stress metabolism?
Which then I'd argue that most people are doing the second thing you said, and they're not giving their body enough to support that higher energy expenditure from the caffeine or Monster energy drink, or whatever it may be, the sugar-free diet sodas and, you know, energy drinks. And they just keep putting themselves in that stress state because they're raising their metabolic rate, because it's always going to happen in a healthy person or an unhealthy person. That caffeine will do that every time. It's going to increase that energy expenditure.
So I think that's really interesting. And so like, I haven't necessarily been like focused on that as much in the past few months, but you had told me about it a couple of days ago. So I've been trying it, and what I noticed is a similar feeling to when we were in Chicago, I think, and we were eating out almost every night at like nice restaurants.
Yeah.
And we would have like a nice, like hearty, good meal, and then have coffee for dessert. But able to fall asleep like at night. It wasn't like the caffeine affected us then, but it was also like this really nice, smooth energy to cap off the meal. And it was a much different feeling than having coffee in the day fasted than it was having coffee after like that really big, rich meal.
Yes.
And so I kind of noticed that like when I emphasized, I had like 2 pieces of toast with like jelly and butter, and then like a big thing of yogurt with honey. So it was like all 3 macronutrients hit the calorie threshold that you were talking about, like 400 to 600 calories, and then started drinking my coffee, and it was that like smooth. It was much smoother.
Yes.
I think that's the best way I can describe it.
Yes, exactly. And that's what kind of made me think about that, because whenever we were, eating and having coffee in the evenings at that time, again, we weren't pounding coffee all night because that would probably end up sleep. But even just like one cup or like a little thing of espresso or something like that, it created that smooth, calm, relaxing energy. And that's the same thing I've been experiencing in the morning. And that's where I just feel like I'm more like my creativity is up. I feel more productive throughout the mornings, and I'm like ready, and my energy is like that throughout the day. And it almost makes sense how, and again, this also, everything's connected, right? It's also, making sure that you're on a good sleeping routine and waking up and getting light immediately as possible, because then it slowly, as it gets into the evening hours, 8:30, 9:30, I'm starting to get tired as I should be. And then getting right in the sleep around like 10:30, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we'll also throw this in. I'm sure we'll end up doing an episode on sleep, like actually on sleep itself.
Definitely.
But we were at that time, we were also playing around. Me and Austin were playing around with the what is it? Biphasic sleep? Is that what it was?
Polyphasic.
It was. Well, I think it was only 2 that we were doing.
Okay.
So but same thing.
Yeah.
But so it was basically like 6 hours of sleep as your main chunk, and then like 30 to 90 minutes in the afternoon of a nap.
Yes.
And so like there was like this nice combination of like you still get to wake up early and have like a good morning. On the afternoon when your energy starts to lull, you get to sleep, and then you like wake up for your evening where you get to have fun until late at night, and then you fall back to sleep. And it was a good cycle.
It was. I think I'm still taking some notes from that, because looking at it in terms of sleep cycles, right? Like an hour and a half, 90 minutes, your body needs that, and it goes through all, the light, deep sleep, REM sleep, and all that too. I still like to use like a 30-minute nap with like Brain FM or like some kind of binaural beats in the afternoon when you have that natural dip in energy. Yeah, there is some truth of like if you're eating a shit lunch, like a bagel or something, something processed, you'll probably have more of a crash. But at the same time, you're going to have that natural dip, just as you would, have that dip at 2 to 4 a.m. Your circadian rhythm also has that little dip around 2 to 4 p.m. roughly. So in that time, I like to have a 30-minute nap, which if you can set it up, maybe you can like, eat your lunch and go in your car and sit up there, or hide under your desk and take a nap. Just don't get caught with that one. You might get, in trouble sleeping on the job. But if ideally,
probably,
probably, ideally,
probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to dive into like the sleep thing. I don't want to go too in there, because it's almost like at that point, sometimes I do feel like I'm fighting for productivity, because that natural dip, and most people just, go grab that extra cup of coffee, as opposed to like, I always look at it, if you can take 30 minutes to then regain your afternoon right back, like at that high energy productivity, why not take the 30 minutes instead of actually trying to get more cups of coffee and dragging yourself through the afternoon? Because usually I always notice like that dip will go away if you get past it. Because usually it's like, if I don't have the nap, I feel this lull, and then come like 4:35, my energy's back and I feel normal. And I'm usually going to the gym around that time. So it's almost like if I want to keep my afternoon the best it can be, having that 30-minute nap, which if you get it done properly, that's uninterrupted, I would say that would count towards a 90-minute cycle. And I still kind of, from what we were experimenting with that biphasic, it's like if you look at sleep in terms of cycles, like 90 minutes, and you aim to get at least like 7.5 hours of sleep, what would that be, like 5 or 6 cycles, something like that? Aiming at the total, looking on a weekly basis of like 35 cycles. So it's like if you only get 6 hours of sleep one night, try to make up for that with a 30-minute nap in the afternoon, or try to make up for it with like 7.5 hours or 9 hours another night to kind of hit that 35 cycle threshold per week, and you'll be sleeping optimally. Because like a 9-hour per night sleep isn't going to be like realistic for everybody, right? Some nights you might be able to, like maybe on the weekend, but some nights you'll only be able to sleep 5 hours. It's like trying to put that stress of having uninterrupted sleep can like even stress you out mentally, which is probably going to make you not be able to fall asleep in the first place, and just cause more and more stress. So it's like taking that pressure off and knowing that you can make up for cycles like in the afternoon or make up some night. That's how I kind of been looking at it lately. It's been working out well. So
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So with the calorie threshold idea, what kind of foods like do you recommend, and do you think like what kind of macro split? I know Tim Ferriss had a thing where it was 30 grams of protein in the first 30 minutes of waking as part of his like diet advice. And like I remember reading that while I was in my intermittent fasting days and kind of like resisting the idea because, you know, I was like, no, fasting's the way to go kind of thing. But, you know, it kind of makes sense, especially with like satiety factors as far as like keeping yourself full throughout the day, but also like triggering your body in that state to kind of like start ramping up that respiratory metabolism early on. So like what exactly do you recommend? Like what would be like a good macro split or good foods? And
yeah, what I've been actually experimenting with lately is actually around that 30-gram mark of protein, because I love this protein. Shout out to Naked Nutrition, because they actually have like a grass-fed casein, which I love casein over whey because I feel like it has a better balance of amino acids, like less tryptophan and more like glycine and everything like that. So I like that. And they don't have any other added ingredients. It's literally just the casein protein, because so many mainstream proteins are just filled with tons of nasty additives, dyes, and things that are also going to bog down your metabolic rate over time, right? So with that said, I like to do that casein, which is I think about like 22 or 26 grams of protein. And then I've actually been doing some whole milk with that on top of honey in there. So I've definitely been trying to get that balance of macronutrients. It's probably
just like a shake. It's like a shake you're doing.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I just prefer like something liquid in the morning, like liquid or a smoothie. Even do a smoothie, like adding coconut oil in too. Because I think the main goal is to get that balance of macronutrients, because you need them all, right? Protein, carbs, and fats. And that balance for me has been working great. And also that I can just shake it up in the shaker really easily. And
And I think as far as carbs go in that sense, well, I'll say this real quick. I also noticed that like whey typically, it's not that it doesn't sit well with me, but it does kind of, I do kind of notice I get a little stressed afterwards, and like end up, you know, having to pee right afterwards, which usually is an indication of like increased catecholamines. So like I've noticed that a lot of people, one of the most common allergies is casein. So some people don't necessarily do well with casein either. So for people who don't do well with that, you could do like an egg protein or like a pea protein or a hemp protein.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good
all those different kinds of things. Casein is obviously like the slowest digesting, so it has the best long-term like slow effects. But I mean, the thing you said about the additives and everything is also pretty crucial to make sure you're being aware of, because if you're taking this shake every day for your health and it has something in it that like is hurting your body, you're kind of being counterintuitive in that sense.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. It's like you can experiment with different foods too, but I think a one thing to be aware of is what are you actually putting into your body? Like read the labels, because something like maybe a dairy product has carinogen in it. Is that how you say carinogen? Whatever it is. I say carinogen, but it's probably not pronounced that way. That could actually be
the gum, right? It's a gum.
Yeah, I think it's like more
a binder.
Binder, emulsifier, like a thickening agent kind of thing. That could be actually. I know that always irritates my stomach too. And but for example, I want to touch on milk for a second, because it's like a lot of people hate on dairy, and gosh, there's like that could almost be a whole entire episode on milk. But some of the things
let's do it. We'll do it.
Yeah, some of the things I know about dairy, like some notes that the ultimate best thing that you could do is raw milk. Like that's going to be the best. But if you're making milk for like, you know, mass production, you know, that can cause so many other things with bacteria. People with weakened immune systems can get super sick. So that's obviously why they have to pasteurize it and put it through that processing. So it's like, I know in Texas, they have a lot of like local farms and stuff. I've been trying to get my hands on raw milk, but it's actually a lot more difficult than I thought it was. Cause like you have to like, you can't buy it. I have to like put down like $50 to own my share in a cow. So I'm drinking my own raw milk, kind of, you know what I mean? So kind of like bypass.
And you like you can't cross state lines. There's like a whole bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. But again, it's like whenever you're producing for such mass quantities, that's where it starts to have the issue. And another thing, pasteurization, it's like, that's one thing, but one thing with milk, especially commercial milk, the homogenization, that's where I think is affecting a lot of people, because basically that's a process where they take milk and like blow it through little nozzles. And that's actually going to cause the proteins and the fats in milk to actually become toxic. And I think that's what people are getting an allergic reaction from. It's like those toxic proteins and fats because of that process of homogenization. So,
sorry to interrupt you. That's really interesting. Do you know offhand what it does to it? Like what's the actual thing it's doing?
I think it's just because of like how hot and how fast it's blowing through the little nozzles. That's
so it's like denaturing it?
Yeah, degrading the proteins and the fats in it.
Okay.
Because it's almost why if you buy commercial milk, you won't see that natural cream or that natural like fat on top or anything.
For sure, yeah.
So what I've been doing at Whole Foods, you can get, if you look closely again, it will tell you on the label if it's non-homogenized. And there's like this grass milk. We got this down in Florida too. From
delicious.
Lucky's, yeah. So I've been doing that lately because it still is pasteurized, but at the same time, it's like that's the best I can do right now. But it's non-homogenized, and you actually have that fat cream on top. And if you heat it a little bit, it almost looks like there's like butter in the milk. You know what I mean? Like that's all still intact, as opposed to like commercial dairy where it's probably pumped with hormones, especially like where is like, you got to look at like where the cow is starting from too. That's why this could be like an entire episode, right? And it's like, especially with how they're treated in that whole conversation, but like getting to commercial milk, I think that's what's really affecting people more so than dairy itself, especially the state of that person, the health that they're in, and a metabolic rate, where it's like that could actually be affecting somebody, especially even if like they're drinking cold milk, which you mentioned earlier on the call, that like if in a colder state, your stomach enzymes aren't functioning properly, and the lactase in your stomach, if that's cold and suppressed, you're going to have a much trouble time digesting that lactose, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many different factors, but that's why it's also
something your body adapts to. Like if I haven't had milk in a long time and I drink milk, the first time I notice effects, but then like literally like by the second or third time I can drink it and I'm just fine.
And that's why also in the morning shakes, I heat up my milk a little bit too. Not like super hot. That would be kind of weird, but like this warm to take that chill out. And then I mix it with the protein and the honey. It also makes the honey kind of digest or not.
Well, and it's an interesting point that you're bringing up. I it's a little off topic from the morning routines, but it really is like the temperature of what you're eating, like I remember for a while there was a thing where it was like, if you drink cold water, you'll burn fat faster. And then basically that was shown like, if it happens at all, it's super minimal and like it's really not good. But like if you're drinking a lot of cold liquid with a hard to digest meal, you're really hurting your body's ability to digest it, because it's really, you're preventing those enzymes. You're turning off those enzymes that would be digesting it. And especially in a low metabolism person, because the liver is really where a lot of the enzymes are created. Like the bile acids comes from the liver, goes to the gallbladder, and then is released to digest fats. And like in a low metabolism person, liver is almost the number one cause of the low metabolism. It's not necessarily thyroid like people think. It's the thyroid not getting converted to its active form in the liver. And so like when you're dealing with that kind of situation, it might not be the best idea to be drinking lots of cold liquids, especially with hard to digest meals. I mean, I wouldn't go crazy with it or anything, but I remember for a while I think it was with that grass milk, kind of like swishing milk for a little bit to get the salivary enzymes to help it kill off the bacteria, to warm up the milk and then swallow, which is, a little bit of a weird thing to do, but
it's extra, but it's like, it's almost like one of those things. It's like if you build, it's definitely weird to ask people that, for sure. It's definitely like if I say that to anybody else, I bet people listening might be, oh, that's kind of weird. I'm just going to like drink it and be over with it. But it's like literally you have to remember digestion starts in the mouth. And it's like, I even like kind of take the chill out of that morning water that I drink as well, if it's not like in a bottle at room temp already. And then moving up to that shake that I've been doing, that's warm as well. And every like kind of big gulp I have, I let it rest in my mouth for a second, kind of swish it around, and then I drink it to kind of get those enzymes from the saliva to help digest it as well. Another thing I actually have been taking with that, just to take again, the betaine. Is it how you say it? Betaine, HCl?
Betaine HCl.
Yeah. I've been taking that too with that shake as well. And someone who's, maybe having digestive enzymes, that's maybe a good place to start as well with the supplement with that.
And ox bile.
Ox bile. What's that? I actually never heard of
ox bile. It's bile acid. So like I said, one of the biggest things is, actually in that book you're reading, Healing is Voltage.
Yes.
He recommends the bile acid in there because, again, like I said, the liver is usually compromised in a low metabolism state. And so you're not producing the bile acid to digest the fats. And so if you're not digesting the fats, you're not going to be absorbing them. So then the steroid hormone production is going to be altered, and therefore now your hormone balance is going to be off, and then it's just perpetuating the cycle of keeping you in a low metabolism state. One way you can tell is that if you feel bloated for a long time after a high fat meal, and if your stools are really liquidy, that's usually a sign of, or oily, I should say, that's really a sign of fat, of not a fat malabsorption. You're not really digesting the fats well. But the first time I tried bile acid, I took it with a meal, slept amazing that night, woke up feeling like incredible, and the effect weared off. And then after a while, I kind of like, it started to wear off enough that I started to kind of wane the supplement down. And there was one day that I forgot to take it, and I started to get like intestinal cramps. So I would say be careful with it. Don't like take a whole bunch and then not take any, because it could have an effect on your intestines. But it's definitely worth trying for anyone who's like,
I'm actually I'm gonna try that today. Yeah, or not today.
Yeah,
I can hopefully order it and get it soon.
Yeah,
today, tomorrow.
Yeah, it's definitely worth trying.
That's awesome.
But so the thing you were just saying though about, like, we were talking about swishing liquid in your mouth to get the bacteria on there. It's really interesting because the bacteria in food, obviously there are some bacteria that are beneficial, some that are less beneficial. But like the mouth's job is really to clean out to filter out the bacteria that aren't really helpful for the body. And the salivary enzymes are the ones that do that. So there was actually like a really interesting study that showed, it was funny how they did it. They had people, I think it was watch like a horror film or watch like people getting killed or something, and then tested their salivary enzymes. And then they had a separate group watch like a video of puppies or something that like made them like really happy, tested the enzymes. And the happy group had way more enzymes that were like cleaning the food than the group who was like stressed out, basically. Which, we would expect, right? Because it's like you're gonna, in a healthy state, or in a happy, healthy, relaxed state, your body's going to function more optimally. In the stress state, you're mobilizing energy to get away from whatever the stress is. Your body's not going to care about those long-term processes. It's more focused on the short-term survival. So I think a huge tie-in here, which is going to come back to one thing that I think is indispensable in your morning routine, is meditation. I think you absolutely must include meditation in your morning, because the act of meditating, which is basically just quieting your mind, as simple as it is, listening to a hum of an air conditioning or something, listening to your breathing and kind of centering yourself to the point where if a thought comes up, you can look at it and not identify with it, allow it to be there, and then let it fade if it's not something you want to engage with. And the ability to do that's so important, because so say you don't meditate, you're the guy running through the hall, you get hit, all the papers go everywhere, your boss is yelling at you, and you're like, shit, like I have to do this, I can't do this. The environment is overwhelming you and putting you in that stress state. But if you center yourself and these thoughts come up and you're like, oh, I see that, let it go. I see that, let it go. It's okay. Then you don't identify with the mind. You are now able to see the screen of mind that is appearing in front of you and decide what you want to engage with or not. All of consciousness is an interpretation. And so that event of your boss yelling at you and the papers flying can be interpreted in a myriad number of ways. You can interpret it as like, oh, I'm terrible at this job and my boss is mean to me. You can interpret it as like, God, I hate this day. Like, it's so terrible. And like, I'm angry because of this. So you could be a victim, you could be angry, or you could be like, oh, interesting. This data happened. This thing happened to me today. Okay. Like, no, I'm unshakable. I'm imperturbable. And that's what being centered does. That's what that meditation does. So to tie it back into what we were just talking about with the salivary enzymes, is that shows you that when you're in that calm, relaxed state, your body's able to digest and assimilate and function far better than when you're in the stress state. So if you meditate in the morning and get yourself into this very peaceful, and that's the key right there, is that if you're doing it right, you'll feel an immense peace, an immense calmness, an immense serenity. If you can find that place every single morning and then eat your meal with that calorie threshold, like you were just saying, if you can eat the meal after your meditation, your body's in this completely serene, perfect state where all the enzymes are functioning the way they should be functioning. So you're at the prime position to be digesting and assimilating that food.
Yes.
And you're literally setting up your entire day to just be a high metabolism day.
Exactly. And that kind of, that's exactly how the build is. It's the light from the sunlight already kind of waking me up, feeling warm, feeling awesome, and then moving into the meditation, then getting me in that perfect state, and then moving into that meal, and then the coffee. It's like just a game changer. And what I was going to add, I'm glad you went back to the morning routine with meditation, because that slipped my mind. But what I was going to say, like moving into lunch, like maybe after you had some stress or whatever come at you in the morning, even before eating lunch, you have to, even any meal really, something like if you're one to be in that stress state, that stress panic eating where you're only chewing enough just to swallow food, something you could do before lunch is like take like 6 deep breaths in and out of your nose to kind of calm and kind of trigger more of that parasympathetic, relax yourself a little bit more before eating, because you're going to start triggering those enzymes in your mouth to start producing and everything like that. It's going to be way better for your digestion. If you already always notice yourself eating super fast and feeling bloated after, for those listening, it's like, try that, slow down, actually chew your food, and like kind of, you know, like let go from the stress of the day or stress of the morning, because you're going to feel so much better after you eat your lunch as well. And also depending on the food choice as well, but that's probably going to be for a different video as well.
And another big point with that too is like, it's so cool how like the science and kind of like the consciousness, spirituality side of things start to blend together. Is that like, if you express gratitude for your food, like if you're like, especially if it's an animal, I try to always be like really grateful that that animal gave its life so that I could, you know, 100%. Have this nutrition. But like also like gratitude for like the farmers who farmed the food and the delivery trucks who brought, you know, all the food to the place where you can have literally like these veggies from all over different parts of the world. You know, you can eat like Italian food and you can eat like Russian food, and you can eat Indian food. You can eat like you can eat all these different types of foods. Like that's a pretty amazing thing that should be, you know, grateful for. But, and that sounds kind of, it could be taken from a very science-minded person as like hippy dippy shit. But like in reality, when you're putting your body in that state of gratitude, you're putting it into a higher functioning state where now when you're eating the food, you're going to be able to digest and assimilate it better. And in fact, there are studies showing that like people who have a religious interpretation of food typically have better digestion, better health in that sense with the food that they're grateful for.
Yes, 100%. I love it. And that's a perfect blend too, because like really what's happening, and why I brought up like the stress panic eating, you know, if undigested food enters the intestines, that's whenever that bad bacteria can start to get overgrown and take over the good bacteria. And then the byproduct of that bad bacteria is like endotoxin, which then starts circulating through the blood, stress out your liver. And that's what's going to be triggering that fat retention and weight gain. So it's not only just a matter of like fast eaters eating more calories. It's almost in the sense you're not only feeding yourself, but you're starting to feed that bad bacteria if undigested food is entering into your intestine. So like that's a big thing that leads to weight gain. And that's the thing. It's almost taking the step further. Like if you eat slow, you're going to be skinny in a sense, but it's really because you're actually just feeding your own body and keeping your gut microbiome in that balanced state, which it should be.
Yeah. I mean, and in the same sense too, it's going to be funny because I think like I kind of see how this podcast will end up unfolding a little bit is like we're going to be like hitting, like if this is the topic, we're going to be hitting it with like some science, hitting it with some like personal reality kind of stuff, like and combining those things. But what you were just saying about the bacteria with the food, is that when you slow down and eat, is that it's not necessarily that like the satiety signals are going to hit you harder, and so therefore you don't want to eat as much. But it's also literally the fact that you're enjoying the food more. And so if you are enjoying your food fully, then you're in this state of abundance of enjoyment where you don't need as much food to get satisfied because you're just 100%. Enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
And so like the difference between the guy who's rushing around eating donuts, just kind of like running through the day, as like a caricature, if we want to use that.
Yeah. It's
like,
probably going to come up a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like we'll call him, what was the name we always did? Jerry. We'll call him Jerry.
Yeah.
Austin always called it.
And we'll have to have Austin hop on here too sometime. A little
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that'd be good. He just texted me.
So stressed out Jerry with his donut eating and running around dropping papers and everything. He's gonna need a lot more food to like help him feel enjoyment out of it, because like the ratio of enjoyment to food is so low because he's not appreciating it. Right. If you appreciate it, the ratio of enjoyment to food goes so much higher, and then you actually need less food, and then your body's also assimilating that food better, and your body's also functioning better. So it's like it just all comes back to that like like appreciation it's always going to serve you.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. This is an awesome first episode, man.
This
Awesome.
is a great first episode. I'm liking it.
It's great because like so many things pop up that like are already triggering like, gosh, I like rewatching this, getting those notes of like, that's like 5-6 different episodes to go off of. So that's going to be really awesome, especially with the balance of like, yes, that appreciation and the spiritual side of it, which might come off as like a little like hippy dippy woo woo, but it's not. It's just like the reality of things. And once you can balance that in with your everyday living, everything starts shaping up and the quality of your living just skyrockets. And that's our main goal of sharing that, because it's like, we're not just doing this to like, I don't know, talk about it. It's like, we're looking to get the most quality of life and achieve that healthy state and help you do it too, essentially.
And that's really the point. It's like, what is the point of getting healthy? It's so that you can enjoy being healthy. Like that's the goal, so that you can function properly, so that you can be happy and feel good and enjoy life. Like everything should be serving your life, serving you a better life. If it's not, if it doesn't have the utility of serving you a better life for you and for those around you, then look at your beliefs and look at why you're doing the thing that you're doing. Because a lot of people get lost in like thinking that they have to do this thing because objective world said so, because society says so, but it's actually hurting them and also hurting everyone around them. It's not actually helping. Exactly. And I think that's like the biggest shift that hopefully, especially in this field where it's like very science-minded people, science is wonderful, but it doesn't tell the whole story. It's a tool. And so it's one of those things where when you place the objective world above the subjective interpretation, then you miss the benefit that can happen from putting the subjective world above or the subjective interpretation above the objective world, because then you start to see these patterns that unfold 100%. That you would miss otherwise.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. Well, so with that, I think we're probably good on the first episode. We'll sign off. If any of you guys listening to this enjoyed this episode, then please comment, let us know like what you liked, what you want to hear more of. Let's start a discussion. We'll talk more about these kind of ideas and answer some questions if you have them. Please like this video and please share this video. We want to get this information out. Like mainstream science does not take the bioenergetic view as much as it should. And it definitely doesn't take the consciousness interpretations of things. I think these are all like, if we really want to help improve people's lives and improve the world, like we got to get this information out there. So do your best to share this information. And hopefully we'll come back with some more goodness for you.
Some more good stuff. Yeah. All right. I love it. And yeah, we'll probably be posting this on like both channels too and figuring all that stuff out. But yeah, wherever you're seeing this, it'll be greatly appreciated. But all right, man. Yeah. Be signing off.
It's good talking, man. Let's do this again soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool.
See ya.
All right. Peace, dude.